Hi, I'm Stephen Mallon. Welcome to the Power of Images. Today I'm going to be talking about my photo essay, Passing Freight. The rail system has been an absolute staple of expansion and commercialization of America. There are over 1.6 million freight cars in service in the United States, operating on over 140,000 miles of tracks. These trains are all photographed on active freight lines, passing me up to 50 miles an hour sometimes. I have one chance to get this photograph, so I have to be prepared both with my framing and location, travel time. So the car that comes first in the train is, of course, the locomotive. This image, Locomotive 6658, I feel is just an iconic symbol of what people expect to see as the photograph of a train engine. This image looks like a painting to me. All of the elements coming together in such a perfect manner. This recently reconditioned locomotive with the American flag passing by with the sun just peeking up over the valley. Looking at the images, you don't realize how fast they're moving because I'm shooting at a very high shutter speed to stop any of the motion. I like the images being as sharp as possible. The Pan Am freight car is one of the earlier iconic photographs that I captured. I thought maybe this was just an old freight car. I did some research afterwards and found out that they had actually sold the name to a freight company. I do like the balance and tension that is happening between the graffiti work that was done on this versus the Pan Am blue and the very iconic logo on the right-hand side. Freight trains are up to 90% more fuel efficient than tractor trailers. Friction is much less than when rubber is hitting asphalt. You will see trains like this where they preload a semi-tractor trailer full of cargo and then put it up onto these designated rail cars that have this welded fifth wheel in place there. This process is saving the trucking company millions of dollars in fuel costs and carbon footprint. So there are a lot of different freight cars that are built for carrying different materials. And one of the cars that I am fascinated by are these center beam flat cars when they're empty. They build this wonderful frame within the landscape, and the juxtaposition of my subject creating this play of depth and scale. So these cars, when they are full, are typically transporting pressurized wood, either railroad ties or construction materials. The materials are large enough that they can just use chain and tie down straps to keep the load from shifting. It's not bulk material like grain or salt or scrap metal that needs to go into a gondola or hopper car. Gondola cars are giant open bay cars with walls on them designed to move loose materials that can still be exposed to the elements. So you'll see these cars loaded with coal, with scrap metal, with industrial waste. This image of the gondola was shot out in Nevada. You have got this nice play of warm tones, and then you've got the crisp texture of the metal, and that is then framed by the texture of the sandscape. And there's still another layer of depth and tonality of these obscured mountains on the horizon. This image comes together in such a wonderful painterly fashion. In contrast to the gondola, Hopper cars are built to be carrying loose bulk materials from sand, grain, sugar, salt, porous materials that can't really be exposed to rain or wind. So this is a flat car. It's unique in the sense that you have got a train car carrying wheels for other train cars on the back of it. The balance of where the car is and the wheels and the forestry really play nicely off of each other. And I don't think this image would work as well if it was completely centered. If this was dead in the middle of the frame, I don't think it would be as captivating. With this tanker car, again, there's this nice framing and contrast and symmetry all happening at once between the colorscape of the oil stains of this yellow and black petroleum car that is framed by a very similar earth tone of the desert. You don't see as much of the desert in this frame, but it doesn't matter because the mountain is dead center and the cap on the petroleum car, the black striping, and the plants that are in the desert all mimic each other. This is a articulated autorack car. What that means is it's two cars that they have joined together to cut down on friction and loading time so they can drive in and load the cars more efficiently. At the beginning, these cars were just a flatbed car. They would put an automobile, strap it down in the back, but then they realized that they were giving up all of this extra space above. And so they started trying out some other possible ways to maximize the number of cars that were going to be loaded into one freight car at a time. And they tried sticking them vertically, they put them up on racks, and they've ended up with this design. The car itself was so big I couldn't even fit it into the frame. When you first see this image, if you are looking at this out of the context of the others, it almost looks like it's a prison building. One of the other iconic images in this project is the Caboose. I think everybody recognizes Caboose. They were very common decades ago when you had to have additional crewmen on the train. But because of automation and cutbacks, they no longer need to have brakemen traveling with the locomotives. And so the Caboose is only used now in special circumstances. If they're transporting hazardous materials and they want to make sure that there's a cleanup crew with them in case there's a problem. And they will also use them if they're just moving crews from one train to another. There is a historic love of trains, just a strong romantic attachment to being on a train, hearing the whistles, feeling the vibrations when they pass. So many people can relate to that experience of waiting at the crossing guard and feeling a little excitement that a train is coming. I think it's just a great pastime for so many Americans.